You know when you go out into the fresh morning air, holding an egg basket full of hope, and into your face come clucks and cries but no sign of eggs? Yeah, those can be particularly tough mornings. It feels as if the chickens have all left on a mini holiday without even saying a word to you. If that helps, you're definitely not the first person dealing with these eggless breakfasts. Even seasoned farmers scratch their heads trying to figure out the mystery of why their hens seem to view laying eggs as more of a seasonal side hustle rather than a full-time job. 2. Chickens, as it turns out, can be quite strange birds. They become moody enough to rival teenage sullenness, and getting them to cooperate can sometimes seem like a futile task. It's nearly impossible to make a cat want to take a bath, much less a cranky hen. One of the main reasons that hens will stop laying eggs is because they are exposed to fewer daylight hours during the winter months. You might not realize it, but chickens are a little like solar panels. They need sunlight to energize their egg-laying potential. When winter rolls around and the sun seems to take an extended vacation, so do your eggs. 3. Adding to the conundrum, hens also go through a process called molting once a year, shedding their old feathers as if they're preparing for a seasonal fashion upgrade. It's a beautiful thing to see feathers flying everywhere, but when it comes to laying eggs, that takes a back seat. Molting is basically the chicken equivalent of a month-long spa retreat. And just when you think the worst is over, you find out that it's not just one hen going through it. They've all decided to molt at once. Let's just say I've experienced my fair share of feather explosions and 0 omelets during that time. Talk about a rough patch. For, if that wasn't enough, chickens can be surprisingly picky about their environment. Anything can throw them off their game, from the neighbor's dog barking incessantly to overcrowded nesting boxes, or even a rooster who crows a bit too loudly at dawn. I had one very dramatic hen that wouldn't lay for just the reason the coop door squeaked. No kidding. I adjusted the hinge, and within 2 days, she started laying eggs again. You'd think she was royalty with such awful demands. 5. For sure, I made my share of mistakes in getting my hens back on track during my chicken-keeping journey. One year, I decided that doubling up on corn during the winter was the magic fix. Instead of producing more eggs, my hens just got rounder and lazier. It was as if they all collectively decided to hibernate for the season. Lesson learned. Carbs make for chubby chickens, not egg layers. On the other hand, I did once treat them to some additional mealworms during molting season, and they nearly ran to the nesting boxes as if late for an appointment. Chickens are just like that. Offer them a wee bit of protein, and poof, they turn out to be paragons of employment. 6. Now, feeding hens might sound quite straightforward. Simply toss in some corn or leftover bread and let them peck away, right? Wrong, because too many carbs will make your chickens turn into feather couch potatoes. Just imagine you eating nothing but pasta and pastries, eh? That is the case for hens as well. They will stop laying eggs rather than not work out at all. While those carbohydrate-rich treats power the birds all day long, they do not provide the proteins and nutrients necessary for real egg production. Overindulging them with grains like corn or leftover bread is kind of like throwing them an all-you-can-eat buffet of empty calories that always ends with fat chickens. 7. And honestly, carrying that extra weight will only strain their bodies, making them less likely to lay. It's almost like trying to do errands after a Thanksgiving dinner. You could do it, but would you really want to? Hens need energy. It's just not the kind that makes you feel lazy and lethargic. When I first started raising chickens, I thought I was being generous by providing them with all sorts of kitchen scraps. It was satisfying not to waste anything, and the hens seemed happy enough at first. But then, egg production dropped, and it took me far too long to realize they'd been overindulging in carbs. 8. Once I cut back on the scraps and focused on higher protein feeds, the eggs started rolling in again. Lesson learned. Chickens need the right fuel, not just any fuel. The key is striking a balance. A little corn here and there is fine. especially during the winter when hens burn extra calories to stay warm, but it cannot make up the bulk of their diet. It's all about providing them with what they truly need rather than what's easiest for us. Chickens aren't shy about showing you what works. You'll know you're on the right track when the eggs start piling up again, and those hens look lively, not like feathered blobs taking a permanent vacation in the coop. 9. You'd think that chickens, being the feathery little dinosaurs they are, would come equipped with some sort of built-in food processor, but nope. They need grit to get the job done. Amish farmers know this well and always ensure their hens have access to grit. Tiny stones that work like nature's own version of a blender. Chickens don't have teeth, so they swallow grit, which then resides in their gizzards and helps grind down all the grains, seeds, and kitchen scraps they gobble up. Without it, the food just sits there like an uncle at Thanksgiving after 3 servings of pie. Completely useless. 10. The better the digestion, the better the nutrient absorption, and better nutrients mean more eggs. It's like giving your car premium gas instead of cheap fuel. Sure, it might run on either, but you'll get a smoother ride with the good stuff. The catch: not all grit is the same. Amish grit, for example, is insoluble, the kind that sticks around in the gizzard and works on every meal. New chicken keepers often err by using oyster shells as grit, which is a misstep. Oyster shells dissolve over time and are more of a calcium supplement. Helpful, yes, but not the same thing. 11. You wouldn't replace your morning coffee with toothpaste just because they both are in tubes, right? I will never forget the first time I put grit in front of my hens. First, they regarded those little pebbles like I had gone crazy. Yet within a couple of days, I noticed the difference. Their food wasn't going to waste, and they seemed more energetic, as if they had found a secret they weren't going to share with me. And then, just like that, the eggs started rolling in again, like flipping a switch, all because of some pebbles that no one else thought were worth the trouble. 12. Here's a little nugget of wisdom. Free-range chickens often find their own grit in the wild, but if they're cooped up for the winter or during bad weather, they'll need you to bring the grit to them. This is where Amish farmers outshine most others. They pay attention to every tiny detail, even something as unglamorous as gravel, because they know it all adds up in the end. The only product we'll ever promote on our channel is a book by Claude Davis, an experienced prepper, about 126 superfoods and preservation methods from crisis times like the Great Depression and wartime. This valuable knowledge is something that needs to be passed down to our children and grandchildren. It would be a shame to see this information about highly nutritious foods and preservation methods disappear. 13. They also have a book about herbal remedies by Nicole Alon. If you're watching this on TV, you can find our channel, Frugal Solutions, on your phone or tablet, and find the books by clicking the link in our channel description or any other video description. It's funny when you think about it. Who would have thought that the secret to more eggs was just a few handfuls of rocks? But the Amish get it. They know that good digestion leads to good laying, and more eggs mean fewer cranky mornings. After all, nothing ruins a day faster than running out of omelets. 14. Chickens, like humans, need the right mix of nutrition to stay productive. The Amish understands that just spreading some scraps or corn around chickens will not create a basketful of eggs. These birds do require their vitamins and proteins checked, and it is where the natural supplements work. No powder or chemicals lab-created stuff, just the ingredients you might be sitting in the pantry. The apple cider vinegar is the farmer's version of a power drink for hens. Just a splash in their water, about a tablespoon per gallon, keeps the hens hydrated, improves digestion, and wards off those sneaky little illnesses that can mess with egg production. 15. It's like giving your hens a spa day for their gut. Personally, since I started adding ACV to my flock's water, let's just say the egg count shot up faster than my excitement the first time I found a double yolk. Garlic is another secret weapon. A clove or two added to the feed every now and then helps keep the flock's immune system strong. Plus, it makes them smell too funky for most parasites to stick around. I thought they might turn their beaks up at the garlic initially, but they gobbled it up like they were preparing for an Italian dinner. No vampires in the coop so far, either. 16. Herbs like oregano and thyme aren't just for Sunday roasts. They help keep hens healthy too. Packed with antioxidants, these herbs keep the flock's immune system humming along nicely. Some Amish farmers swear that a few sprigs of parsley here and there encourage hens to lay better. I tried this herb trick with mine, and though I cannot honestly say the parsley made them start laying, it certainly had them strutting about like little feathered food critics. Then, of course, there's the protein boost that high-protein feeding gives. Critical at a time like molting when the birds are all set on feather production and less concerned about egg laying. 17. Commercial layer feed with 16 to 18% protein is the Amish standard, but they also turn to natural sources like mealworms or black soldier fly larvae. Ever watch a hen devour a handful of mealworms? It's like a scene from a poultry horror movie. Feathers flying, worms disappearing, and hens fighting like they just spotted the last piece of chocolate at a family reunion. But hey, more protein means more eggs, and that's all that truly matters. With all this talk about nutrition, it's easy to see how eggs become less of a mystery and more of a formula. Feed them well, keep them healthy, and the hens will do their part. No magic required. 18. Laying eggs consistently requires chickens to have more than just a cozy nest and a pep talk. They need protein, and lots of it. The Amish have this all figured out. They know that without enough protein, hens go from egg-laying machines to freeloading featherballs, leaving the farmer to wonder if they're running a retirement home instead of a coop. Layer feed is the backbone of their diet, typically packing at least 16 to 18% protein. But the Amish aren't just dumping feed and calling it a day. They adjust it throughout the year based on what the flock needs, especially during molting season when hens look more like disheveled pillows than productive birds. 19. When molting, chickens shed their old feathers and devote all of their energy to growing new ones. That's when the Amish turn up the protein with treats like mealworms, black soldier larvae, or even boiled eggs. It feels weird to feed eggs to a chicken, something like handing out hamburgers at a cow convention, but trust me, it works. Once I scrambled some old eggs for my flock. They gobbled them up like kids attacking a candy bowl on Halloween. They were back in laying mode before I knew it, and I didn't even have to introduce them to motivational podcasts. 20. Interestingly, the Amish don't rely on expensive protein boosters or factory-made supplements. They use what's available, often straight from their land. Extra greens, vegetable scraps, and leftover dairy products are all mixed into the hens' diets. If it helps avoid waste, it's good enough to fuel egg production. Speaking of greens, I swear my hens lay prettier eggs when I toss them a bunch of kale or clover. Could be science, could be imagination, but pretty eggs feel like a win. 21. A big key is mixing it up. Chickens get bored, just like humans do, and if they see the same food day in and day out, they're going to lose interest fast. She throws a handful of black oil sunflower seeds into the mix from time to time, high in fat and protein, an egg-laying superfood if there ever was one. One of the Amish farmers I spoke with said that chickens like a little surprise in their diet, just like we do. Honestly, after watching my hens go nuts for sunflower seeds, I think they might be onto something. 22. Of course, too much of anything can backfire, and the Amish know that balance is vital. Overfeeding protein-rich treats can leave hens too heavy, which isn't exactly conducive to laying. It's a delicate dance, just enough to keep the eggs coming without turning the hens into chubby little divas. One time, I went a bit overboard with mealworms, and my hens started looking plump rather than productive. Lesson learned. Moderation is key, even with bugs. 23. This constant balancing act, monitoring diet, adjusting for molting, and switching up treats, is what keeps the eggs coming all year round. It's not just about shoveling feed into their trough and hoping for the best. It's about paying attention to what the hens need at any given moment. When you get it right, those eggs start rolling in, even in the dead of winter. 24. When it comes to snacks, Amish farmers know how to hit the sweet spot without turning their hens into freeloaders. They treat their chickens the way a grandparent sneaks a cookie to a grandkid. Just enough to keep them happy, not enough to spoil dinner. Greens are at the top of the treat list with kale, spinach, and lettuce tossed into the yard like confetti. And why not? They are full of nutrients to keep the hens strong and healthy, propelling them to lay more eggs. A farmer once told me this: if you want eggs, feed them greens like it's a garden party. And it works. 25. Happy hens equal healthier eggs and fewer trips to the feed store. But the real trick is knowing when to throw in a little fruit. It's like Sunday potluck dessert apples and berries appear. Refreshing, hydrating treats in the summer. Don't overdo it. I did too much watermelon one July, and my poor hens were so busy poking through the juicy mess to really use their nesting boxes for a day. Come to find out, even chickens know how to slack off after a good dessert. 26. The surprise star in the treat lineup? Pumpkin. The birds adore it, and it serves as a natural dewormer. Every fall, Amish farmers crack open pumpkins and let the hens at them, so by winter, the flock is healthy. You might think the hens are attending some kind of autumn festival. I have to admit that watching a group of chickens dive into a pumpkin is hilarious and somehow satisfying. 27. Of course, none of these treats can replace a solid diet. Amish farmers are careful with snacks, using them to boost egg production rather than replace essential nutrients. This balance ensures the hens are never too full to eat their proper meals. If you've ever given a kid candy before dinner, you know how that story ends. Trust me, it's no different with chickens. A hen on treats might look at her feed bowl like a toddler looks at broccoli. 28. But when the treats are right, the results show up in the nest box. More eggs, healthier eggs, and hens that seem downright smug. After all, who wouldn't feel a little proud after munching on gourmet greens and seasonal fruits? Just like that, with a few smart choices, those hens are back to business, laying eggs like it's their full-time job. 29. Of course, not every hen is cut out to be a rock star for eternity. Even the Amish knows when it's time to let the ladies of the feathers punch out. A productive hen typically lays for 2 to 3 years, and after that, well, let's just say some of them begin eyeing the porch swing. The Amish aren't interested in operating a retirement home for poultry, but they do not believe in waste either. Every hen, young or old, has a purpose. 30. When egg production slows down, it's not personal, it's just biology. Hens naturally produce fewer eggs as they age, sometimes dropping from 5 eggs a week to barely 1. Amish farmers keep track of this carefully, rotating their flocks methodically. It's a little like knowing when your old car's check engine light is a hint to stop pouring money into repairs. Rather than worrying about squeezing the last few eggs out of those older hens, they'll switch in some new hens and keep the process rolling smoothly. 31. The older hens aren't simply discarded, though. They often become stew meat. And let me tell you, there's nothing quite like a broth made from a bird that has lived a good, long farm life. I remember when one of my own hens, Mildred, stopped laying eggs and spent her days strutting around the yard like royalty. She was not exactly carrying her own load, but by turning her into soup, well, let's just say she paid it back in the tastiest of fashions. That broth was so divine it felt like a warm hug from a country kitchen. 32. It is not a callous process. It is more a matter of pragmatism. The Amish have an unusual way of living a life where one respects the animals and also remains efficient. No pampered hen spa days, just honest-to-goodness farm life. And truthfully, even chickens seem to sense when it's time to retire. There's a certain look they get as if they're done with laying an egg every morning and ready for the easy life. Who can blame them? If I had laid eggs for 2 consecutive years, I would need a break too. 33. But letting a hen retire isn't just about soup making. It's part of keeping the flock healthy and productive year-round. Old hens can develop health issues, which might stress the younger ones. And stressed hens tend to lay fewer eggs, which means you're stuck staring at an empty egg basket. The Amish keep things practical by introducing new hens gradually, allowing them to take over egg duty while the older gals enjoy their golden years, or well days. 34. It's a simple but effective strategy. Fresh hens in, older ones out. No drama, no guilt, and this rotation keeps everything running like clockwork. There's always a young hen ready to step up to the plate, or in this case, the nesting box. After all, chickens aren't much different from people. Everyone's got a job to do, but nobody can work forever. 35. Let's be real. Chickens are pickier than they look. You'd think they'd lay eggs anywhere, but no. Hens have standards. A dirty coop? That's a definite no-go. Amish farmers know this better than anyone. They treat the chicken coop like it's the Ritz-Carlton, scooping out droppings and refreshing bedding regularly. It's not just about appearances. Keeping things clean cuts down on illness. A sick hen isn't laying eggs anytime soon, and an uncomfortable one? She's boycotting the nest. 36. Here's a little fact. If the nesting area is dirty, hens might stop laying altogether. I once left my coop unattended for weeks. Big mistake. The hens gave me looks like I'd checked them into a rundown motel. But after a good deep clean and a fresh batch of pine shavings, they were back at it, laying eggs as if I had just earned myself a 5-star Yelp review. Chickens, it seems, are a lot like house guests. You got to keep things tidy if you want them to stick around. 37. The Amish also replace bedding with precision, not waiting for things to get gross. They know the damp conditions let parasites and bacteria thrive, which might mess with their hen's health and mood. And once one gets sick, then it's as if watching the dominoes fall. Everywhere, feathered friends start displaying symptoms. Maintain the coop in cleanliness, then you cut down the risk there. It's a little extra work, sure, but in the end, more eggs are worth every scoop of bedding. 38. Chickens remind me of grandmas for some reason or another. When the kitchen is dirty, there is an awful lot of complaining about it. My grandmother one day took a look at my chicken coop and gave me that look that she reserves for sticky countertops. After I cleaned it up, she said to me, "Now they will start paying for themselves." And boy, wasn't she right. The hens started laying eggs like they owed someone money. 39. Moral of the story? When in doubt, channel your inner grandma. When winter rolls in, Amish farmers gear up with their secret weapons: warm bedding and insulated coops. It's not just about keeping the chickens cozy. It's all about egg production too. Just as we reach out for a steamy bowl of soup when temperatures drop, we know hens need that added care to preserve their energy, especially during cold months. Birds burn more calories just to remain warm, but that can gobble into all that egg laying if they don't get appropriate feed. 40. To circumvent this, the Amish farmers lay on a protein and fat-heavy diet. They know that feeding their hens more nutrient-dense foods like higher-fat grains or even kitchen scraps can make a big difference in keeping those eggs coming. When hens get the right fuel, they're more likely to lay consistently. I mean, if I had a snack for every time it snowed, I'd be a champion at egg production too. If I were a chicken, that is. 41. But wait, there's more. You might not realize this, but chickens appreciate a little bit of extra light during the cold winter months. Some Amish farmers use natural light by letting their coop get as much sun as possible, while others opt for light bulbs that simulate daylight. It's a trick to condition the hens into believing that it's still summer, and thus, they continue laying their precious eggs. It's like giving them a mini vacation to the tropical islands. 42. All this pampering makes one think that the life of a chicken is one long sun and rainbows. Just like people, however, they will face some difficulties even under the best conditions. Just think of a cold winter morning when hens prefer staying in their comfortable bedding instead of venturing out. This is where the wisdom of the Amish shines through, keeping those coops clean and free of clutter. A clean space doesn't just keep the hens happy, it keeps them healthy. A clean coop minimizes illness, allowing the hens to focus their energy on what really matters: laying eggs. 43. Now let's get down to earth here. All the warm beds and cozy coops will do nothing if the hens are still feeling stressed out. So when the weather is perfect and the environment is set, it's time to make sure these feathered ladies are relaxed and content. Happy hens lead to happy egg production after all. 44. Molting season, a time when the chickens decide it's time for a makeover and will take a little hiatus from laying. Every year, like clockwork, chickens shed feathers to make room for new ones. While that sounds like some sort of beauty regimen, the trade-off is no eggs till the feather show is over. The Amish have a way of handling this seasonal feather frenzy that not only keeps their chickens calm, but also maintains a steady egg supply throughout the year. They embrace molting as a natural part of a chicken's life cycle, but that doesn't mean they sit back and twiddle their thumbs waiting for eggs to reappear. 45. Instead, they boost the protein in their hens' diets during this time. Think of it as a power-up for chickens. The extra protein helps speed up the molting process, and they get special treats like mealworms or black soldier fly larvae. Talk about a gourmet chicken diet. It's a bit like giving your kid extra dessert before dinner to speed things along. But in this case, it's about fluff and feathers. 46. Never forget my first molting season. I had a flock of birds that had all decided at the same time to molt, and feathers were flying. It looked as if a pillow fight had gone on in the coop. Everywhere I looked, feathers. My children found it utterly hilarious, while I was pretty dismayed because my egg basket was suddenly empty as a politician's promise. That month really showed me that when it comes to managing a flock, timing is everything. 47. The Amish do it even better. They stagger their molting instead of letting all the hens do it at once. This great trick ensures that some hens are busy growing their feathers back, while others continue to lay eggs. It's like running a relay race where the next runner is always ready to go as soon as the last one passes the baton. This way, egg production continues steadily throughout the year, ensuring that the family has enough fresh eggs to enjoy. 48. As for the hens themselves, think of molting as their version of a spa day. They get to shed their old, ragged feathers and emerge looking fresh and fabulous. But unlike most spa days, this one comes with a side of temporary egg drought. So while the chickens may be strutting around with their new plumage, you'll just have to remind yourself that good things come to those who wait. Just imagine if hens had Instagram. They'd be posting before and after shots all winter long. 49. Stress management is just as important as feeding them right when it comes to keeping chickens productive. Think about it. Would you want to tackle a tough day at work if your boss was yelling in your ear? The same goes for hens. If they're stressed out, egg production can plummet faster than a dropped egg. Amish farmers get this, which is why they create a serene environment in their coops. They know that minimizing noise and reducing overcrowding makes a world of difference. 50. Imagine the relief of being able to lay an egg without someone squawking in your ear or bumping into you. By providing cozy nesting boxes for each hen, fights over prime real estate become a thing of the past. It's like giving them their own little apartments. I learned this firsthand with my expansion of the chicken coop. My girls were getting crammed and a bit agitated, but after giving them some more room to roam, it was like they discovered some kind of hidden talent for laying eggs. The output shot up in days. Turns out, Chickens value their space as much as anyone who's ever had to share a bathroom with siblings. 51. If you're still skeptical about the importance of happiness in hens, here's a nugget of knowledge. Happy chickens can produce up to 30% more eggs than their stressed counterparts. Talk about motivation. Now, while it's all well and good to have a peaceful coop, let's not forget that chickens need to be fed properly to maintain their productivity. A well-balanced diet, in addition to a happy environment, is crucial for keeping those egg-laying gears turning. 52. Amish farmers pay close attention to this aspect as well, ensuring that their hens receive the right nutrients for energy and egg production. It's a mixture of care and knowing the needs of their flock. With happy hens, the next step is giving them the fuel they need. What's the secret sauce for a consistent supply of eggs? That's right, a diet rich in protein and essential nutrients. As we move on, we'll be going into detail about what's in the diets of the hens. After all, a hen can't lay eggs on an empty stomach, just like I can't function without my morning coffee. 53. Amish farmers know that keeping chickens productive is not about short-term fixes, but rather through careful, sustained attention. A peaceful environment, managed stress, and a well-balanced diet will keep those hens clucking happily year-round. And it's no wonder they can produce eggs even in the coldest months. If my hens can lay through winter without electricity or fancy supplements, I must be doing something right. Or maybe the Amish really do have secrets to life and eggs. 54. So let's tip our hats to these hardworking farmers and their clucking companions. Here's to a bountiful egg supply, the Amish way.